Right now, the MLB rumor mill is spinning faster than ever, and Yankees fans might want to sit down for this one. Reports around Marte and the New York Yankees are heating up again, while at the same time the Dodgers have already made their move and changed the entire landscape of the market. This isn't one of those wild clickbait stories that collapses in 5 minutes. This is real momentum building behind the scenes, front offices watching each other closely, and decisions that could reshape two contenders before opening day. What the Yankees do next, and how Marte fits into that picture, could quietly become one of the most important storylines of the offseason. The buzz around Marte and the Yankees didn't come out of nowhere, and that's important to understand before jumping to conclusions. Marte has long been admired across baseball for his versatility, switch-hitting ability, and postseason experience, and the Yankees have been monitoring infield and middle-of-the-order options for a while now. Marte isn't being shopped aggressively by Arizona, but rival executives believe the Diamondbacks are at least listening, especially if the return helps them balance payroll and address future needs. The Yankees, meanwhile, are in a position where they're trying to thread a very careful needle. They want to stay competitive right now, but they also don't want to block younger players or sacrifice long-term flexibility. Marte fits that middle ground better than many names on the market because he's proven he's adaptable, and his contract isn't a one-year rental that leaves you scrambling again next winter. That's why these rumors are being treated seriously inside the industry rather than dismissed as fan-driven speculation. What really turned up the temperature on these rumors was the Dodgers making their move. When Los Angeles strikes early, the entire league pays attention, not just because of their resources, but because of how aggressively they operate when they identify a weakness. The Dodgers adding another impact piece signaled that they're not waiting around, and that has a ripple effect. Front offices like the Yankees suddenly feel the pressure to evaluate whether standing pat is enough. No team wants to look back in October and realize they passed on a move that could have changed the season, especially when a rival set the tone months earlier. This is how markets shift. One move doesn't just add a player to a roster. It forces everyone else to reassess timelines, priorities, and risk tolerance. From the Yankees' perspective, the interest in Marte connects directly to questions about balance and depth. They're looking at how to protect themselves against injuries, how to lengthen the lineup, and how to avoid being overly dependent on a small group of stars. Marte offers positional flexibility, which is a huge selling point in modern roster construction. He can handle multiple infield spots, he's comfortable in big moments, and he doesn't need to be the guy every night to add value. That's appealing to a team that already has marquee names, but needs consistency across 162 games. The Yankees also value players who don't shrink under pressure, and Marte's postseason RSUM matters in those conversations more than fans might realize. At the same time, it's important to be clear about what this rumor is and what it isn't. There is no confirmed deal. There is no official offer on the table that we know of. What exists right now is interest, evaluation, and positioning. Teams do this constantly behind the scenes, especially when another contender makes a high-profile move like the Dodgers just did. General managers call each other, check availability, ask prices, and then decide whether the cost matches the urgency. That's where the Yankees appear to be with Marte. They're gathering information and weighing whether this is the right fit at the right price, not rushing into something just to win a headline in January. The Dodgers' move also highlights a philosophical difference that's fascinating to watch. Los Angeles is often willing to be proactive, even aggressive, trusting their development system and financial strength to absorb risk. The Yankees, in recent years, have leaned more toward calculated patience, especially when it comes to long-term commitments and prospect capital. Neither approach is inherently right or wrong, but moments like this force a decision. Do you react to the market, or do you stay disciplined and trust internal options? Marte sits right at that crossroads because he's not a desperation ad, but he's also not a low-cost flyer. Acquiring him would signal that the Yankees believe the window is open right now and worth pushing. Another layer to this story is timing. The longer the offseason goes, the more leverage shifts depending on who blinks first. If Arizona decides they're comfortable holding Marte into the season, the price stays high. If they decide flexibility is more valuable than continuity, talks can accelerate quickly. The Yankees know this, and so do the Dodgers, even though they're no longer directly tied to Marte after making their move. Other teams are watching too because one trade can unlock a chain reaction. That's how off-season markets work. One domino falls, and suddenly, players who seemed unavailable are back in play. For Yankees fans, the excitement comes from the idea of fit rather than fantasy. Marte isn't being discussed as a savior, and that's actually a good thing. He's being discussed as a stabilizer, someone who raises the floor of the roster and gives the coaching staff more options. That kind of move doesn't always dominate headlines, but it often shows up in the standings. The Yankees have learned, sometimes the hard way, that depth matters just as much as star power over a long season. Marte's skill set aligns with that lesson, which is why the rumors have legs instead of fading away after a single report. There's also the reality that the Yankees don't operate in a vacuum. Every move is weighed against payroll considerations, future extensions, and the development of younger players. Adding Marte would require confidence that he complements the roster rather than complicates it. That's why discussions like this take time. Front offices run scenarios, compare alternatives, and project how a move looks not just on opening day, but in August and September when fatigue and injuries test every roster. What makes this moment especially interesting is how quiet everything has been publicly. Usually, when a rumor isn't real, it explodes quickly and then disappears just as fast. This one has lingered, resurfacing in credible conversations, which suggests there's at least a foundation to it. That doesn't guarantee a deal, but it does mean teams are taking it seriously. Insiders tend to notice when names keep coming up in the same context, and Marte's name continues to be linked to the Yankees whenever infield upgrades are discussed. As spring training approaches, the window for action narrows. Teams want clarity before camps open, players want stability, and coaches want to build lineups without constant uncertainty. If the Yankees are going to make a move connected to Marte, the pressure to decide will only increase from here. The Dodgers have already sent their message to the league. They're not waiting. Now the question is whether the Yankees feel the need to respond or whether they believe their current plan is strong enough without making a splash. No matter how this plays out, this situation tells us a lot about where the Yankees see themselves. Contenders don't get linked to players like Marte unless they believe they're close. Rebuilding teams don't entertain these conversations. The fact that this rumor exists at all speaks to expectations in the Bronx. The bar isn't just making the postseason, it's competing deep into October. Every decision is filtered through that lens, including whether to engage seriously in Marte talks. So as the rumor mill continues to turn and fans refresh their feeds looking for updates, the smartest approach is patience. This isn't about chasing excitement, it's about understanding strategy. The Yankees are watching the market. The Dodgers have already made their move, and Ketel Marte sits at the center of a conversation that could shape the balance of power in the league. Whether a deal happens or not, the message is clear. The offseason is far from quiet, and the next move could arrive when everyone least expects it. If you want to stay ahead of these developments, keep your eyes open, because stories like this don't usually fade away. They either resolve suddenly or evolve into something even bigger as opening day gets closer.